Hey all, we are at Indianapolis in the Xfinity series. My second full run at Indy. The season before was in a hot seat. I think I finished in the top 15 because it wasn't a 5-star car. But anyway, as you can see, we're fighting loose. We got worn tires. There's probably about 10, 15, or 20 laps on the tires. I don't remember what the tire wear was the event, right? But as you can see, they're not fresh tires, so there's at least 10 laps on them. And we got 15 laps to go. So I've been adjusting every chance I got since I knew the car wasn't perfect, and throwing fresh tires at it as much as I could. And my goal here is just the top 10. I mean, always if you can get yourself into a position, like if caution came out now and I pitted, my fresh tires would get me, probably get me up into a top 5 finish. It's a big track, 2.5 miles. And when you get tire wear like this, and your car's not handling right, could be, 10 laps is all you got. So here it's 15 laps to go, 14 laps to go. I might have a shot of getting up into the top 2 or 3 even, or maybe even win. But that hasn't happened. So I'm just trying to get everything I can, get as far into that top 10 as I can. If a caution comes out too close to the end, and say it's a 2 or 3 lap shootout, I know I can probably, until the tires get up to pressure, I know I could probably hold off, other guys on old tires for a couple of laps, and maybe have a shot too. So I'm just digging. I'm just trying not to wreck. As you can see, the car is quite unstable at times. It is a handful, particularly coming out of 4. It's a little tight in 2, but it's maybe it's a little bit squirrely. I'm just trying to lay off Cindric here. But getting into 3 and getting out of 4 is a little dicey on old tires. Getting into 1 isn't so bad. Into 2 is not bad either. It's off 2. Off 2, and it usually gets tight off 2 at Indy, no matter what you're driving. And I'm loose. You can see me. Yeah, see how it wiggles a bit? Yeah, that's doing it on its own, which is even better. Yeah, so I have a bit of an unconventional setup at Indy. It tends to get through the corners well, but in P4, as in all my, new build setups, it's too loose, and it's costing me grip and drive off. And with these long straightaways, you can't afford to give up anything of your drive off. But the way I have the AI car set, you can't really afford to give up anywhere anyway. That's why I'm running 9th and not 1st. But that's okay, because the harder you run the car, the longer you run the car, the more you learn about the setup. Like I look at the setup here on the temp screen, and you'll see, I got my front end seems to be pretty good. And that's another point I wanted to make about building your own setups. I learned early on, get the front end right. If the front end isn't right, the rest of the setup really doesn't matter. Because if you're loose with a good front end, you can drive it. If you're tight with a good front end, you can drive it. And I don't mean wrecking tight or wrecking loose. Though you might be able to if you're that skilled. I mean, it just gets loose. Like I am here. What I call I'm 4 degrees loose, because I have 4 degrees more tire wear on the right rear than the right front, and that's too much. My formula I came up with is about 2 degrees per 10 laps, but even that's too much. More like 1 degree per 10 laps if you have to have any wear right front or right rear difference. You really want to balance the right side as much as you can, because it'll also affect your tire wear. See, I'm loose, so that means the car is sliding around more. So each time I turn the car, I am making not only losing wear because I'm loose, but I'm aggravating the loose condition and making it looser. So it kind of will wear even more. See, I'm up to 5%. Even though just briefly, it's moving in that direction to be even looser over the course of a run. So you really want to get a handle on these things early. I remember it was a handful earlier on, and I know you'll see in the replay I spun out. But that's okay, because I'm racing this race knowing I don't have a perfect setup to learn what goes on during a run and where I need to start the setup better the next time. So I have a better base setup going in, so then I can, not just do better, but get the setup better, so I can build a setup that has a chance, to run in the top 5 and win the race. Or if I'm lucky, just blow everybody away, because this is, it's so funny. I was talking to somebody earlier about NASCAR and how they change and such. And it's like, during the whole course of NASCAR's existence, their job is to make the racing as exciting as possible, with lots of passing and every car on the track being competitive. And at the same time, the team and the driver's, job is to make that as boring as possible by having the fastest car and blowing away the entire field where nobody can touch them. I mean, isn't that? So they're always working at cross purposes, and that balance sometimes tips one way or the other. Right now, I would say it's more in NASCAR's favor, as it were, as far as competition and competitiveness. Matty D did an awesome job at Bristol this year. I watched that. I was so upset. It was so cool that Denny Hamlin was like, he's the last guy I want to pass after he won the race, and you could see he meant it. Because they had an alliance with Joe Gibbs, so they worked together, and it was like a tentative, teammate. And he knew Matty D is on his way up. He hasn't had a win in Cup, and that he's an awesome guy and an awesome driver. So it's like, it's cool to see the older guys be like, yeah, if it was possible for me to pull over or let him win, I did. But it's so competitive in NASCAR, Denny can't really do that. He couldn't just, if he did it, everybody would have known. People who know, how the cars are and stuff. You know when somebody lifts. There's guys all around the track, cameramen and whatnot. They know when guys are in it and when they're not in it. And so, for your sponsor's sake, you can't lift. As much as you might want to. Hey, somebody might do it. Somebody might have done it. Somebody still might do it. But I totally understand Denny's, point of view. But at the same time, Matty, in Denny's car, probably would have won that race, without question. Not because his team is not a top team or not. It's just that what goes into the prep on a car, like the 11 car for Joe Gibbs, is at a higher level than Levine Racing can offer because of its budget level. So they get a lot of secondhand information from Gibbs, which is awesome, but that's based on the 11 car or the 18 car or the 20 car or whatever. It's not specifically for that 95 car, and so they have to kind of figure out what they're going to do with their car based on what the other guys are doing with slightly different setups and such, even though they might have the same equipment. So it's a whole different, it's a huge help, but it's not equal. Same thing with Penske and the Wood Brothers. So as you can see here, I am hanging on. I'm fighting with Cindric, and I'm like, you know, just come on, get stuck behind a lap car, get stuck. I see cars coming up, and I'm looking at them as potential, you know, help to be able to get around them quickly and build a gap between me and Cindric. Look how loose I am. And yeah, I'm thinking, you know, in order to hold it down, I got to slow down, which is going to kill my speed. But if I make him check up, then I can maybe gap him like I did right there. I mean, it's not a great strategy, but it's all you got, you know, aside from letting him get up next to you and wrecking him, which I won't do. And, you know, unless I get loose and accidentally do it. So here I'm looking at Vinny up ahead here, Vinny Miller, and I'm like, I got to get past him. Let's just milk him, get some draft, blow past him, get in line, hopefully get a little bubble draft from behind and get a whiff of the guy in front of me, which I did. You can hear the engine, and I was up to 194 instead of like 190 that time. So I gapped him, and I'm looking into my mirror as when I can, and I'm like, just get stuck. And he doesn't get stuck. He goes past Vinny, but it takes him a little longer to get past Vinny than me. And I'm just like, I'm on a mission. Just get as many cars between me and Cindric as possible to protect my 9th place position. And you know, I might get lucky because I think that the 8th place car is not that far ahead. I'm not sure who he is. It might be that yellow car up there. It might be maybe Brandon Jones or something. I'm not taking my hands off the wheel to hit the button to see at the moment. See, I'm just, look, Cindric's coming. He's right on my butt. And it's just like, just don't mess up. Don't mess up. Don't give him an opportunity to get past. See, I went wide. I was wider than I wanted. It's getting loose, real loose into 3. And I'm real loose. So see, I sacrificed about 4 or 5 miles an hour to try to hold it down, and I almost lost it anyway. And he got up next to me anyway. And I'm thinking, you know, I could side draft him, but I really need to concentrate on this entry. And I'm like, you know, let me stick on his tail. Maybe these lap cars will give me an opportunity to get past him. You know, use him as a pick or something. And I'm just like, just don't lose him, don't lose him. Like, look at this. He got to check up. Look, yeah, he checked up again, big time. And I had to shoot to the inside because I don't want either of them to get a whiff of draft off of me before I get at least to the lap car's door. And again, he doesn't get stopped by him. But I'm thinking I only have a couple laps left, and that with that kind of gap, if I don't screw up again, I just might be able to hold him off. See, I pulled away a little bit, which means his tires are having a bigger effect. See, I just checked, but there's 3.5 seconds to the guy in front of me. So, and last lap. So unless there's a wreck up ahead, I am not going to gain any positions. But I can lose that position to Cindric. It's only 1 point. But it's, you know, you got to practice these things, because what if I'm in the lead in a future race and he's second place, and you know, and that means I get into the playoffs or not or something, you know. So this is all good experience, and this is a situation, unless you run, you know, long laps, long races, or you run a lot of tire wear, you're never in this kind of thing. That's why I run long races at 1 by, because I'm used to 1 by. But you can run 50% races at times too, and you know, experiences too. I'm a little bit faster than the guy in front, which is kind of amazing with how terrible this car is handling to me. And I pulled off a top 10, 102 speed rating, considering how, you know, terrible the car was. It's still fast. You know, which I like. I like fast. Don't you like fast? They always say, if you have speed, if you show up at the track with speed, you can do something. If you got no speed, then, you know, you might as well stay home. So you got to have speed. But getting the front end to work will allow you to figure out the back end, you know, rear suspension-wise, chassis-wise. There's so much you can do. And as a general rule on flat tracks, more stagger between everything. Left and right springs, left and right tire pressure, left and right track bar. Flat tracks, there's a lot of short track type setups going around, which has the left front higher higher than the right front, or harder than the right front. So you'll get like I'm looking at a setup online, like a 1200 spring on the left front and an 1160 on the right front, and that tends to work on flat tracks and certain tracks. It's kind of a reverse English type mentality, like the opposite you would think would be true. See, that was going 3 wide, and that just did not work there with the car the way I had it. Need more damage, need more consequences. Oh, did I do it again? Yes, I did again. I know I spun a couple times because it was so loose, and I kept adjusting it and tightening it up. But there's only so much you could do in a race when you really need a fundamental setup change. Not on the front end, on the back end. I realized it was like all back end, which allowed me to finish the race with the Band-Aids I put up on it to tighten it up, and actually manage a top 10. But see, I just sliding up. I'm loose. I'm loose in, I'm loose off, I'm loose in the middle, I'm just loose. And with that right rear having little grip, you know, I know how to drive a loose car, but there's only so much you can do. You can only push it so far, and then you can just spin out. So I kind of learned where that was, and I made that better and gave myself a little bit of security, but not really where I'm going to see. I'm fast. You know, I'm moving up to 3rd place, probably after a restart on fresh tires. And I'm running up there, but then, you know, once it gets too loose, I'm not going to risk, you know, fighting nose to nose, because I know I'm going to lose, and I'm going to wreck everybody. And I don't want to do that. It's no good for me. It's no good for them. Like I know I'm holding my breath, and I remember holding my breath the whole time where I'm in this pack here. But I'm in, you know, like right behind the lead pack. You know, I'm running top 5. You know, just tire wear is started to work a little bit in my favor. So this is interesting. You know, getting up there, and where was I? 2nd or 3rd place for the stage. That's cool. Yeah, going 3 wide inside on fresh tires. Fresh tires are great. Poor Mr. Feel Goods, as they used to call them. Make you feel like, you know, you're much better than you are if you have a bad setup, but it fades. Yep, see, back to 13th. And knocked into the wall. So I pitted here, pretty guaranteed. Guy's like flying all over the place. Lap 89, restarted 8th, and yeah, that was it. Went to the end. Ended up in the 9th. So, you know, driving a car that's not perfect is what you tend to do more than you like. Because, you know, you can have the fastest car on the track on fresh tires, and you can have the slowest car on the track on 20 lap tires. I ended up with the fastest lap time. That's pretty awesome. 51.7. I don't even know how good that is. I don't really race. Haven't raced a lot in Indianapolis in Xfinity, but I'm happy about that. You know, not really happy I only managed a 9th, but in lieu of how bad the car was, that is a tremendous accomplishment. And I'm like, okay. And I learned some things. And yes, Indianapolis, the corners in Indianapolis are very close to turn 2 at Pocono. So you can, if you're really doing terrible at Pocono, you can take your best setup from Indy and use it as a base at Pocono. You're gonna have to change it because Pocono is a compromise, turns 1, 2, and 3. You know, yes, all 4 corners at Indy actually are a little different, but they the setup, is a lot. You don't have to do too much. It's a very close thing, like most ovals. But Pocono, you got to compromise. But you can, if you have a really good setup for Indy, you can take it to Pocono and run decent. But you'll see. You'll be like out to lunch in 1 or 3, and you'll have to adjust it. But for me, the key to Pocono, since you got a long backstretch, is getting through turn 2 fast and getting off turn 3 fast. So if you can master that, turn 1 usually takes care of itself. But if you can get off turn 1 well also into turn 2, then you got the whole track, don't you? So, but it's really hard to do. Really hard. Thank you guys so much for coming along. Once again, please like and subscribe, share, comment, questions, anything. Thank you so much, and keep rolling.